right, so welcome to another deep dive. And today we're going to try to navigate a pretty choppy situation.
Oh, yeah.
The diplomatic breakdown between Rwanda and Belgium.
Yeah.
It's a situation that's, been making headlines.
Of course.
But we want to go, beyond the surface.
Right.
Really understand the depth of this rift.
Absolutely.
And our guide for this is a statement from Alain Destex.
Okay.
He's a Belgian senator.
Right.
Who was really deeply involved in investigating the 1994 Rwandan genocide.
So, what makes Destex's perspective so valuable here is that,
Yeah.
he doesn't just, analyze the events.
Right.
He connects them.
Right.
He places this current tension that we're seeing in the context of,
Yeah.
Belgium's very complicated history with Rwanda.
Yes.
And he's offering like an insider's view on how the past is shaping the present.
And he doesn't shy away from how serious this is.
Oh,
He, openly states his regret over the severed ties, while also saying that, Rwanda has every right to take this action. But he doesn't stop there.
No.
He places the blame squarely on Belgium,
Really?
saying their recent actions have actually provoked this response from Rwanda. And this is especially interesting because the Belgian foreign minister dismissed Rwanda's reaction as disproportionate.
Right.
So clearly there's a lot to unpack here.
A whole lot going on.
Yeah.
So what Destexx argues is that, instead of Belgium being a neutral party in this,
Right.
they've actually inflamed the situation.
Okay.
And he points to their attempts to kind of turn the EU and other international organizations against Rwanda.
Interesting.
And what's fascinating is that he says that this is the most aggressive stance that Belgium has taken towards Rwanda since the 1994 genocide.
Wow.
So given the weight of that event,
Right.
that's a very, very significant statement.
Do you think that Belgium could have realistically, remained neutral in all this?
It's a tough question.
Because their history with Rwanda is so deeply intertwined with everything that led up to the genocide.
Yeah.
That's the complex thing about all of this, is that, Destex's argument is that Belgium's recent actions have ripped open old wounds.
Right.
And these are wounds that had, started to heal after Belgium's official apology back in 2000.
Okay.
And so to understand his perspective, I think we need to really delve into those historical wounds and how they're influencing today.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
So Destexx brings up several key points.
Okay.
Starting with this idea of ethnic classification in Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
And he argues that Belgium didn't just observe existing ethnic groups.
Right.
They actually created and enforced these really rigid categories, which fueled discrimination that impacted Rwanda for decades.
And that's the nuance of his argument here.
Yeah.
Is that, Belgium didn't just acknowledge existing differences. No. They magnified them.
They imposed a system where those differences became the basis for really discriminatory policies.
Interesting.
And we're not just talking about social divisions here.
Right.
Yeah. This is about institutionalized inequality.
Wow.
That had a real impact on people's lives.
So can you give us some examples of how this classification played out?
And one of the most striking examples is the introduction of identity cards in 1933.
Identity cards?
Yeah.
Wow.
These cards explicitly labeled individuals as either Hutu or Tutsi.
Oh, wow.
And it solidified those categories in a very tangible way.
Right.
And this wasn't just about documentation.
Right.
This shaped access to education, employment, even social standing.
Wow.
Imagine living in a society where a card dictates your opportunities and how you're perceived by others.
Yeah.
And the impact of this system, reverberated throughout Rwandan society.
It's like they took these existing tensions and codified them into law.
Yeah, basically.
But Destexx doesn't stop there.
No, he doesn't.
He goes on to point to a really pivotal year.
Okay.
1959 in Rwanda's history.
All right, 1959.
What happened then and how was Belgium involved?
So in 1959, there was a huge shift in Belgian policy.
Okay.
They moved away from favoring the Tutsi minority and began promoting Hutu empowerment.
Okay.
Now, on the surface, this might sound like a move toward equality, right?
Right, yeah.
Destexx here argues that the way this shift was implemented actually triggered a wave of violence against Tutsis.
Oh, wow.
Thousands were killed, and tens of thousands fled to neighboring countries.
So rather than fostering peaceful coexistence, it actually ignited the very tensions they were trying to address.
Exactly, and that's a key point that he emphasizes.
Yeah.
For many Rwandans, this is living memory.
Right.
They experienced this violence firsthand, either directly or through their family stories.
Right.
It's a historical trauma that shapes their perception of Belgium even today.
Wow.
So when they see Belgium taking actions that they perceive as hostile, it's not just about what's happening now.
Right. It's viewed through this very painful past.
Right, and that brings us to 1994 and the horrific event that, forever stained Rwanda's history.
Yeah.
The genocide. And this is where Destexi's accusations become even more serious.
Right.
He claims that Belgium not only had warning signs of the impending genocide, but they actively pushed for the withdrawal of UN peacekeepers.
And what's so important here is the context.
Yeah.
Destex, as a member of the Belgian Senate, was deeply involved in the investigations into the Rwandan genocide.
Right.
So he had access to information and insights that most people didn't.
Right.
So his accusations stem from that understanding.
Wow.
He's suggesting that there were specific intelligence reports and evidence that the Belgian government chose to ignore. And, potentially due to political pressure or who knows what.
So from Rwanda's perspective, it's not just about, these historical missteps.
It's a pattern.
They've seen a pattern of Belgium not only making things worse,
but abandoning them in their time of greatest need.
Exactly.
And it doesn't end there.
No.
He goes on to claim that even after the genocide, some Belgian political parties maintain ties with the very regime that was responsible. So, adding insult to injury.
Right.
Given this backdrop, it's no surprise that Rwanda might be hypersensitive to anything Belgium does.
Right.
That could be perceived as hostile.
Exactly.
And that leads us to the most recent event that he discusses.
Okay.
A Belgian parliamentary resolution condemning Rwanda and calling for sanctions.
Now, Destex was just in the Kivu region of the DRC, which borders Rwanda.
Right.
And he claims that he saw firsthand what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And he criticizes this resolution, saying it shows a complete lack of understanding of what's actually going on.
Right.
He even calls out some of the claims in the resolution as factually incorrect and unnecessarily hostile.
Okay.
So you could really sense his frustration with how Belgium is approaching this whole situation.
Which leads to the million-dollar question that he poses.
Right.
Does the Belgian government and parliament believe they can insult, threaten, and pressure Rwanda without any consequences?
And what he seems to be doing is warning Belgium that their actions have consequences.
Right.
Especially with this weight of history.
Right.
He understands that, given the past, any perceived aggression from Belgium is likely to trigger a strong reaction from Rwanda.
Yeah.
This isn't just about, diplomacy.
Right.
It's about understanding those very deep-seated emotions and distrust that stem from the shared and often painful history.
The very complex situation.
Very complex.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like we're looking at two completely different versions of the same story.
Yeah.
Both valid in their own right.
Exactly.
And this diplomatic breakdown is showing us just how differently Belgium and Rwanda are seeing this shared history.
Yeah.
Which inevitably, shapes everything they do today.
Yeah, think of it like a complex tapestry.
Yeah.
Woven from threads of colonialism conflict, lingering resentment. Each side sees a different pattern, a different narrative.
Yeah.
And that informs how they're understanding what's happening right now.
And Destex really seems to be pushing for a more nuanced understanding from Belgium.
Oh, yeah.
He's basically saying you can't just ignore history.
Right.
And expect that your actions won't be seen in that context.
Yeah, it's like trying to read the last chapter of a book without understanding the story that led up to it.
Exactly.
You're not going to get the full picture.
He's calling for a deeper level of empathy and understanding from Belgium. He's asking them to acknowledge that very real pain and trauma that their past actions have inflicted on Rwanda. And to approach this current situation with more sensitivity.
With more humility, for sure.
Yeah, this isn't unique to Rwanda and Belgium.
No.
Think about other nations with, these complex histories of conflict and colonialism.
Right.
How do those historical legacies continue to influence international relations today?
It's like those ripples in a pond, after you throw a stone in. The initial impact might fade, but the waves continue to spread outward, affecting everything in their path.
And sometimes those ripples can even become huge tidal waves.
Oh, yeah?
If the underlying currents of resentment and distrust are strong enough.
Exactly.
And that's precisely why understanding history is so crucial.
Yes.
It's not about dwelling on the past, but about learning from it and using that knowledge to navigate the present
100%.
more effectively.
I completely agree.
And his argument goes beyond just pointing fingers.
Yeah.
He's urging this more introspective approach, not just from Belgium,
right,
but from all nations.
It's a call to grapple with the complexity of history,
Yeah.
To acknowledge past mistakes.
Right.
And to try to, strive for a more just and equitable future.
Which makes me wonder, what does genuine reconciliation actually look like? Does it require apologies?
Right.
Reparations? A fundamental shift in power dynamics?
These are really weighty questions.
Yeah.
With no easy answer.
It's a conversation that deserves our careful consideration.
I think so.
True peace and stability can only be achieved when these historical wounds are addressed with empathy, understanding, and a genuine commitment to building a better future.
There's a really powerful quote from Nelson Mandela that comes to mind.
Okay.
He said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love."
Yeah.
Love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite.
What a powerful reminder. Yeah. Even the deepest divisions can be overcome with education, understanding, and a conscious effort to choose love over hate.
Exactly. And I think that's the main takeaway from this deep dive. Understanding history, acknowledging past wrongs, and striving for reconciliation.
Yeah.
These aren't just political exercises.
Right.
They're essential for building a more peaceful and just world for everyone.
It's a reminder that we're all connected, and our actions, both past and present, have consequences that, ripple across borders and generations.
And it highlights the importance of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
We can't just rely on governments to solve these complex issues.
Right.
It starts with each of us.
Right.
Being willing to learn to listen, to advocate for justice and reconciliation.
This is where grassroots activism comes into play.
Right.
We as individuals have the power to challenge our own biases, educate ourselves about history, and promote understanding and empathy within our own communities.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Recognizing our shared humanity and actively working together to create a future with those historical wounds no longer define us.
Yeah.
That's really what we should be striving for.
This deep dive has been truly eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
And it's made me really reflect on how I can apply these insights to my own life.
That's great.
And become a more informed and engaged citizen.
That's fantastic. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Yeah. There's always more to explore.
Of course.
We encourage you to continue seeking out diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Engaging in meaningful conversations about history and reconciliation, and envisioning the future we want to build together.
It's also worth noting that we've primarily explored this situation through Day 6's statement.
Right.
It's important to seek out viewpoints from Rwandan officials and citizens to gain a more holistic understanding.
Absolutely.
Their voices are essential in this conversation.
Couldn't agree more.
They can provide firsthand insights into how Belgium's actions have directly impacted their lives and their nation.
Right, and that reinforces the importance of historical awareness.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing the facts.
Right.
It's about understanding the lived experiences of those who are directly affected by these historical events.
So it's about listening with empathy.
Yeah.
And recognizing that the past holds this immense power to shape our present reality.
I think that's really what this all comes down to, is that, history isn't just something we read about in textbooks.
Right.
It's a living force that continues to shape our world today.
Yeah, and that makes it all the more crucial for us to engage with it thoughtfully, critically.
Yeah.
With a genuine commitment to creating a more just and equitable future.
100%.
This deep dive has been a real journey through this complex terrain of history, diplomacy, and the enduring influence of the past.
Yeah.
We've explored how these historical grievances can shape present-day relations, the importance of acknowledging past wrongs, and the role of empathy and understanding in fostering reconciliation.
It's been a challenging conversation.
Yeah.
But a necessary one.
Yes.
And we hope it sparks some new insights and perspectives for you, and that you'll continue to, think about these important issues.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to seek out different viewpoints, engage in thoughtful conversations, and continue learning about history, reconciliation, and the future we want to build together.
Remember, this deep dive has been just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.
Exactly.
There's always more to discover, more to understand, and more ways to engage in building a more just and compassionate world.
So true.
As we've been talking about this, what's really stood out to me is the passion in Des Tex's words.
Yeah.
Like, you can almost feel his concern for both countries.
Right.
and his, sincere hope that they can somehow repair this relationship.
Yeah, I got that sense too, his deep personal connection to all of this.
Yeah.
He's dedicated so much of his life to understanding the Rwandan genocide and everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
It really adds this weight to what he's saying that goes way beyond, just analysis.
It really highlights that human element of all this.
Yeah.
It's not just about governments and policies.
Right.
It's about, relationships and empathy.
Of course.
And recognizing our shared humanity, even in these, really complex situations.
And speaking of that shared humanity,
Yeah.
we should also think about how this is affecting everyday people.
Yeah.
Imagine being a Rwandan living in Belgium, or a Belgian with close ties to Rwanda.
Right.
This situation must be so difficult for them.
It's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, trying to navigate these tensions on a personal level like that.
It really does make you think about the personal toll this takes on individuals and families who are caught in the middle of all of this.
And it highlights the importance of people-to-people diplomacy, fostering those connections and understanding across borders.
Right.
Regardless of what governments are doing.
You're right. It's those personal connections, those shared experiences that can help bridge these divides and pave the way for reconciliation.
It's about recognizing what we have in common as human beings.
Right.
Even when the political landscape is shifting all around us.
Which brings us back to Destex's concluding hope that this crisis won't, completely damage the bonds of friendship between Belgians and Rwandans.
It's a really powerful thought.
It is.
A glimmer of hope amidst all of this.
Yeah, and a reminder that human connection has the potential to transcend borders and ideologies.
Absolutely.
Regardless of these, political disagreements, fostering empathy and understanding is essential.
100%.
And those connections can really be a force for positive change, for healing, for a future where the past doesn't define us.
This deep dive has been quite a journey.
It has.
Through this complex landscape of history, diplomacy, and the influence of the past.
Yeah, we've explored how those historical grievances can really shape relations today. The importance of acknowledging, what went wrong.
Yeah.
And the role of empathy and understanding and fostering reconciliation. It's been a challenging conversation.
It has.
But a necessary one.
Absolutely.
We hope it's, giving you some new insights and new perspectives.
And that you'll keep thinking about these things. And keep grappling with these issues.
Yes.
We really encourage you to seek out diverse viewpoints. Have those conversations and keep learning about history and reconciliation and the kind of future we want to build together.
And remember, this deep dive has just been one piece of this much larger puzzle.
Yeah, keep exploring, keep questioning, stay curious.
There's always more to discover, more to understand, and more ways to engage in building a more just and compassionate world.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We look forward to exploring more thought-provoking topics with you soon.